Hi, welcome to Steve's Makerspace. I'm Steve, and I've got a special show for you today. Today we're going to be building Vinny the robot. And while we're doing that, you'll learn what it takes to build a robot, so that you might be able to build your own. And during that, I'm going to be talking with Norby and Vinny the whole time about this show. How do I make the show? How do I get my ideas? And what's the background like? What's going on in my head while I'm making the show? So you'll get to see that. I hope you're going to enjoy it. Towards the end, we got a little surprise. I won't give it away. And that's it. Let's get to it. Vinny's going to start, like most projects, with a slab of wood.
Look at that, Vinny. You're just a piece of wood.
Okay, to be fair, Norby, you started off as a piece of wood too.
Oh.
Anyway, this is going to be a 20-minute block-by-block building project. And I really didn't want to just say, oh, now I'm placing this bearing, and now I'm placing this other bearing for 30 minutes, because I thought that would be pretty boring. So, you can just follow along and see what I'm doing. And while this is going on, I'm just going to be talking about various stuff. My creative process, about Vinny and Norby, and how I build things in general. I did wonder whether I should build Vinny and basically pull back the veil on what it is I do, because I don't want to ruin the idea that Norby and Vinny are alive.
Now wait a minute, Steve. Are you saying that we're not alive?
Well, I'd say you're alive, it's just you mostly live in my head.
I think what Steve means to say, Vinny, is that he's crazy.
No, I'm not saying that I'm crazy. It's just you guys are aspects of myself, Vinny is that part of me that's wild and crazy and likes to have fun. And Norby is that part that's just likes to build bridges and analyze problems, and he's not much of a people person.
Well, I feel like I'm alive, but I gotta say it's kind of weird seeing you build my body while I'm talking to you.
I know. Well, let me say something about this build now. When I built Norby, I put all the controllers stacked in a wall, and that made it pretty hard to connect all the controllers to the bearings, because it just all became a jumbled mess. I also recommend that you connect the controllers to the bearings as you go along with your build, rather than trying to wait until the very end to connect everything, because it's really hard when all you see is a bunch of blue dots all over the place. It's also a good idea to test the parts as you go along rather than all at the end, and you'll see me doing the testing in just a second. The driver's seat limits you to 10 buttons, so of course if you're designing your own robot, you're going to need to make a plan and decide what you want those 10 buttons to do. Norby has his arms on different buttons, but he doesn't have a mouth or eyebrows. Vinny has a mouth and an eyebrow, so I had to not have his arms move independently. In other words, if his left arm goes up, his right arm also goes up.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying, Steve.
You think that's annoying? Try not having a mouth.
I'm sorry, guys. It's, there's only 10 buttons. I don't know what else to do.
It's alright, Steve. I know you did your best.
Aw, thanks, Vinny. That's good to hear.
Steve, let me ask you a question. If Vinny is part of who you are, why does he talk like that? I mean, that's kind of a weird accent he's got there.
What's wrong with the way I talk?
You slur a lot, and you say boo and darlin'. I don't know what that's about.
Well, I'm originally from New Orleans, and that's how New Orleans people talk. They say, hey, darling, how you doing? Where's your mom and them? Let's go get some crabs. And they call them yats, because instead of saying, how are you, they say, where you at, darling?
Yeah, you're right. That sounds like my people.
Exactly, and people in New Orleans love to create and to have a good time.
So why don't you talk like that all the time?
I have a Midwestern accent because I watched a lot of TV growing up.
Steve, if Norby's part of you too, why he's so serious and so grumpy all the time?
Maybe I'm grumpy because you just want to put a rocket on everything.
No, you're grumpy because I'm grumpy and I'm serious, and that's just part of who I am, And you're also coming from that part of teachers who said, no, don't do it this way, do it this way. You're doing it wrong. And that kind of message can keep me from expressing myself or trying new things or trying to build something because I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. And so doing this show is I'm trying to help other people who might be getting the same messages and saying, okay, you can try new stuff and you don't have to worry about doing it perfect the first time.
Oh, I like trying new stuff.
I know you do, Vinny. That's what I love about you.
I remember you talking about that in your first show when you said you were going to start a YouTube channel and I said you were going to fail. And now you have 6 subscribers.
Yeah, and I'm delighted with my 6 subscribers.
Oh, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I actually think you're doing a pretty good job.
Oh, thanks, Norby. That means a lot to me.
But Steve, let me ask you something. Why don't you just build stuff and talk on the fly like the other YouTubers do? I mean, you spend a lot of time editing this show.
Yeah, I do spend a lot of time editing. I just am not that skilled at building and talking at the same time. So I usually do the building, and then afterwards I do a lot of narrating, and I have to edit in a lot of this narration as I go along. In fact, narrating the parts with you guys in it is the most difficult, because not only do I have to figure out what you're going to say, basically I just listen to what you have to say, and then I've got to figure out what buttons to press to make your body language that's going to match what you're saying, and that takes a long time. In fact, most of my narration is done not in a long stream of sentences, but in like 1 or 2 sentences at a time.
Holy cow, so how much time does it take you to make a video?
Well, this video is going a little quicker than most, but most videos, it works out to be about an hour for every minute of finished video time. So a 10-minute video would be about 10 hours of work.
But that's crazy. How can it take you an hour to make a minute of video time?
Well, I'm spending a lot of time in Scrap Mechanic just building stuff, and that takes time. A lot of the things I build don't wind up going into a show, or they might be going into a future show. But a good chunk of the time is trying to come up with stories to go along with the show, and like what's the conflict that might be going on, and what's the message I want to deliver with the show, because I like to have some kind of message, and there might be some science that I'm trying to convey, some concept, and so trying to weave all that together with the build that I'm doing, it takes a long time, a lot of thinking, really, and I'm working on it like when I'm driving in my car. And at night, sometimes I can't sleep at night because I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with the show. And then I've got to say funny things and be entertaining, and that takes time. Okay, hold on, we're going to test the bottom half of Vinny. Check it out. Button 1, waist, 2, shoulders, 3, shoulders, 4, elbows, and I think that's it for now.
Okay, that's really creeping me out, Steve. Can you please give me a head?
I'm sorry, Vinny. I'm gonna get to it. It's just gonna take some time. Just please be patient. So up here is where I'm going to be placing the second set of controllers. 5 more to control the upper half of Vinny's body.
An hour a minute still seems pretty excessive, Steve.
I would like to cut down on that time, but to put things in perspective, a Pixar movie, which obviously Pixar is much, much better than what I'm doing, but Pixar takes about 10,000 hours of time for every 1 minute of screen time.
What?
Yeah, and if one person was somehow able to do all the tasks needed to make a Pixar movie, it would take that person working full-time 430 years to make the movie.
But then how does a movie ever get made?
Well, they've got a team of, a couple hundred people working on it full-time for a couple of years, or actually it takes more like 4 to 7 years, but not all of that time is working on the movie full-time.
Most of those people are making good salaries. What are you making, Steve?
Oh, about 23 cents so far.
That's not much. I think that works out to be about half a cent per hour.
Yeah, I've definitely made better wages before. Yeah, and since videos don't pay the bills at the moment, that means I have to do some other kind of work that does pay the bills, which means I have less time. I can produce videos, which means it takes me a lot longer to produce each video. Not complaining, that's just the way it is.
Do you have a team like Pixar?
Not at the moment. I wouldn't mind collaborating with somebody, but at the moment it's just me. Oh, I should mention here that every one of these controllers bearings I'm setting to 30 degrees.
So how you get started with your videos, Steve?
You mean like the ideas or the story?
Yeah, all that.
Well, I don't have one set way of doing it. Sometimes I'm starting with a story idea, a situation. Sometimes I'm just getting you and Norby and me together and listening to what we have to say to each other. Sometimes there's some kind of lesson I want to teach, like about doing the right thing, or how to deal with your emotions, or how to deal with people. Sometimes I've got a science concept that I want to convey, and sometimes I've just got a cool build that I want to talk about, and so I might start with any of those things. So a good rule of thumb is just begin anywhere and follow it, see where it takes you. So for instance, my domino video. So I started by just making dominoes. I thought it was cool. So then I thought, so what do dominoes represent? Like, what's the science that I could teach around dominoes? And I thought, okay, this is potential and kinetic energy. The things are falling. And that led to my whole video on potential and kinetic energy. But then also dominoes, I knew about the domino effect, and so then I thought, oh, okay, I could talk about the domino effect. And then I was like, well, what's the metaphor that I could teach that would be more like, personal? What does it have to do with being human? And so then I came up with potential. Well, we each have potential within us, so that's related to the potential energy, and we're releasing that potential energy when we take action. And then the domino effect, there's domino effects in personal relationships when one person is mean to another person and that person is mean to another person, or one person is happy to one person or nice to one person and that person is happy and they're nice to another person, and so on. And so that's how I came up with those concepts, just thinking about it. And also Googling, both the domino effect and the potential energy. I just Googled and I looked at YouTube videos, and a lot of times I'm doing research, and that's I'm building on the research. That potential energy video, in fact, I was going to talk about a lot about dominoes and also about the trebuchet. I mean, it wound up really getting huge. That potential energy video was going to be really long, and then I realized, I need to break this up into different parts. You've got a domino video and a potential energy video and a trebuchet video, which I still need to finish working on. My lesson from all that is just to simplify. Figure out the one thing you want to convey and convey that.
Vinny, that's quite a look you're sporting there.
I look like a praying mantis.
Don't worry, Vinny, we'll get you cleaned up soon. The dominoes also led me to look at Rube Goldberg machines and to build one of those in Scrap Mechanic. I just released that video, and that took a long time, building Rube Goldberg machines. Also, while I was in the middle of recording the narration for this video, Scrap Mechanic came out with the ability to save builds and put them on the Scrap Mechanic Workshop. So now I've got Vinny and Norby saved to the Scrap Mechanic Workshop. I've shared them out.
Wait, you've just given away our bodies?
Yeah?
Well, what are people gonna do with us?
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping they'll be kind.
Steve, I think maybe you should have asked us before you did that.
Yeah. I guess so. I'm sorry.
Well, sorry doesn't bring back our bodies.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you would feel so strongly about it.
Well, how would you like it if somebody cloned you without your permission and they just suddenly there were a bunch of people who looked like you walking around the streets? That would be weird, wouldn't it?
Yes. And kind of creepy.
Exactly.
Okay, I get it. I should have asked first. I'm sorry.
I forgive you, Steve.
Thanks, Vinny.
Seems to me there's no point in this build anymore. Somebody can just download Vinny.
Well, I want somebody to be able to make their own robot and to understand how it all fits together. Even if you download Vinny and then look at it with your connector tool, it's such a mess of lines and controllers and bearings that it's hard to figure it out from scratch. So I was hoping this video would help people understand how it all fits together.
You just took off my forehead.
Yeah, your whole forehead's supposed to be a little bit bigger. I made a mistake. I'm trying to correct it. You know, now that we have the ability to save creations, I should be able to do a remote control robot. I mean, I can do a remote control robot right now, except that if you exit the world and come back in, then the remote control doesn't work anymore. But if you can save your creation on a lift, then that should solve that problem. I mean, you'd still have to, basically, the creation on the lift would have to be where the two parts are together, the controlling part and the remote part. But then you take it off the lift, you remove the block connecting the two, and now you have a remote controlled object. So, I think we're going to have a Vinny and Norby version 2 coming up that will be a lot less bulky. So that's exciting.
So we'll have slimmer bodies.
Yeah, and be more maneuverable.
Hey, that sounds pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, and maybe we can have some remote control animals, like pets. I've been wanting to do a remote control dog for a while, but it's really big. I mean, I did one. I've saved it on the creations. It's a huge dog, though.
Well, let's see it.
Oh, all right, sure. So we'll take a short break from the building. Let's find the dog. Dog with head motion is what it's called on the Scrap Mechanic Workshop. All right, here it is.
Oh, he looks cute.
Actually, it's a she.
Oh, what's her name?
I don't know. I haven't actually named her.
Well, we should give her a name then.
Oh, all right. Just a second. Let me show. Button 5, I think, is the door, and no, 6. I don't know. One of the buttons is the door, and one of the buttons is access to the controllers, and then button 5, I believe, is the tail wagging. And then we're moving around. I've got wheels in the back. In the front, there are these cement blocks that just go around to give it a jumping motion. And then 1 through 4 buttons are for head motion and for mouth motion. So, ruff, ruff, ruff.
Wouldn't a big dog like that be more like a woof, woof?
Maybe. I hadn't really thought about it.
Let's call her Angel.
Please, let's not.
Well, then what do you suggest, Norby?
Fido, maybe? Brownie?
That's not very original.
How about Darlene?
Darlene? What kind of a name is that for a dog?
I'm with Vinny on that. Darlene's a bad name.
How about Lady?
Well, I kind of like that.
Yes, I could get behind that.
All right, Lady it is. Say hello to Lady. Hi, Lady.
How you doing, girl? How you doing, girl?
Woof, 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 woof.
I like having a dog on the show.
Yeah, well, I still want to make a smaller version. Anyway, Vinny, we're done with you. I'm not bothering to show the rest of the build, just making the rest of the car and putting the rockets on. That's not really part of Vinny the robot. So we'll just give you a paint job and we'll be done.
You're starting to look like your old self, Vinny.
I agree, I'm looking a lot better. I think you forgot something, though, Steve.
Yeah, Vinny's missing his nose. Oops, sorry. We'll take care of that. One nose coming right up. And there you go. Painted blue. Ta-da!
Yeah, you're right. I look great.
It's been a pleasure, Vinny. That's our show for today. I hope you liked it. If you did, give me a subscribe right about here. The other shows are different than this one, so check them out. If you want the downloads, Vinny the Robot, Norby the Robot, and Dog with Moving Head, those are available on the Scrap Mechanic Workshop. I'd love to see your own creations. Give me a link in the comments. Tell me where I can find them. Give me some comments below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Steve's Makerspace.